Okay guys, let's look at genital cutting in a focused way. Let's talk about it in terms of the legal liberal subject, gender equality, oppression, and society in general. So the legal liberal subject, what is it about? It's commonly seen as the white Anglo-Saxon male, heterosexual, able-bodied, middle class. They're the ones who are making the law. Parliament is made up of all these people. So they are basically controlling society by saying, this is what you can do, this is what you can't do. Now, are they really representative of society though? How many of us actually belong in there? How can law be said to be liberal if we're all underrepresented? So circumcision, how are you going to relate it to the liberal legal subject?
It can be argued that there is a larger diversity compared to the 16th century Parliament. However, what is considered the reasonable man and the values are still similar to what they are.
Has society really changed?
Nah. Society has changed to be more diverse. We are more diverse.
But have they accepted the diverse values?
That's the thing, nothing really changed. But then that's exactly it. Whenever you look at articles, it says that he's an adult Anglo-Saxon male and at least of average mental and physical competence. He's the heterosexual father of family. He sees himself as a free and rational individual who makes a permanent mark of the world. That's the thing. Even until now, if you search online, that's what the reasonable man is. We have not taken into account any of the opinions and beliefs that society has as a whole. We have to break this mentality. Like, don't you think? We're all different. So,
true. It's seen as the Western culture right now. The laws here, made by Western people, but about Eastern beliefs.
Exactly.
Is that okay?
The people condemning it are
not exactly the ones who have a say in it.
Exactly. Where does the majority come into this though? Basically, isn't a reasonable man the minority? So, like, we are taking ideas from third world countries such as Sudan, Somalia, countries in Southeast Asia, but why? You know, like, is it because they don't agree with it? Or is it because we don't agree with it? Like, now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the law is wrong. It's not flawed, but it's just the people who govern it. It's the people who make the law and it's the people who govern our states that are the problem.
People. Okay guys, gender equality. Female circumcision is seen as female genital mutilation, while male circumcision, just circumcision. How do we feel about this?
Well, that's the thing. The law is supposed to be equal and it should be like created for all genders. But then in the UK, it's actually prohibited for females to be circumcised. It's under two statutes, which are the Female Circumcision Act and the Female Genital Act. And it's also viewed as like being mutilation of their genital parts, whereas, as you said, for males it's just circumcision. So it's kind of unfair because why is it okay for them to do it on males but not females? Do they think that females are seen as delicate little flowers that should be protected at all costs? This goes against the idea of what law is said to be. The law is said to be unbiased, but clearly there are bias here. And women are more protected than men in this sense.
And men's circumcision is viewed almost as an initiation process. They are expected to go through the process without an anesthetic and feel the pain. Their emotions are not taken into account. In expecting them to conform to what society sees as being masculine, such as being tough, being strong, and being emotionless, we are placing them in a box and locking them inside. They are not given the room to feel pain, a normal response. They are merely expected to conform to the standards of which ironically are pushed upon them by the very people that are trying to protect their interests, setting aside the fact that their bodies too indeed need protection. As men should be masculine, as they should be also protected by pain. However, this also shows that there is still a divide and further emphasizes that clear distinct group in which the reasonable man is. So Goldher has said that, so it happened that the foreskin, displayed by the medical profession, came to broadly signify ignorance, neglect and poverty. As white middle class genitals adopted circumcision, those left behind were mainly recent immigrants, African Americans, the poor, and others at the margins of respectable society. The very idea of masculinity perpetuates and emphasizes the idea that being gentle or feminine is undesirable as they are viewed as lesser than men. The idea of circumcision of the male seems to point towards this idea as well. The foreskin is removed, as it is seen to be undesirable. One must ask themselves, why? Why is it undesirable? Is it because it is seen as feminine, as males are always supposed to be harsh, rough, and tough?
So basically, to sum up, we're discussing the idea of gender roles and how society says, males, you have to be this way. You have to toughen up. You have to be a man. Take it. Feel the pain. Females, on the other hand, are like, no, you delicate creatures must be protected. Speaking of gender and how you're telling males that you're not supposed to feel pain and you're oppressing them, what about oppression?
I believe a huge factor as to why society views female circumcision as mutilation is that a lot of Western liberalists constantly paint the picture of circumcision for females as being a young girl being strapped down to a table against her will and being prodded with metal objects that she doesn't consent to. It is this violent and unsanitary conditions that play in the minds of people when they talk about female circumcision. They are conditioned to think that is the norm and hence fight against that. They are unaware that female circumcision can and do take place in sanitary conditions. By making it unlawful, they're just opening the doors to backdoor circumcision and forcing the first situation to become a reality. They are being blinded by the notion of what they believe is right, that they fail to see that there are other people with different standards as well. They see it as being unnatural and therefore foreign to them, so they must perceive it as wrong because they fail to see that they are the ones with the wrong idea. Female genital mutilation is mostly tied to the loss of a sense of innocence of a girl and the loss of desire. This is, however, imposed upon them by the people who are completely removed from the process. The imposition of such can be seen as discriminatory, as perpetuated that society is intolerant and that if you are different, then there must be something wrong with you. As a society, we form the majority and are not like you, therefore cannot be the problem. It is once again an imposition by the reasonable man of what is normal, and categorizing anything that falls outside that is abnormal, different, and even damaged. As illustrated in the case of Ree J, the courts concluded that circumcision should be disallowed as the child will be different to his peers, thus resulting in adverse physiological effects. If a court feels that if a child does not conform with the general majority, then they will suffer from it. The courts are said to be the guardian of our rights, but this case shows that the rights that they are guarding are the rights of the general public and what is seen to them as normal. Even if a female wants to be circumcised, she is seen as not actually consenting, but merely conforming to what the society wants, which in the eyes of the reasonable man is seen as being barbaric. She should be educated and informed, and what she wants is to be oppressed by what her society wants and expects of her. The very thought and idea of this is very condescending and patronizing. The idea of oppression seems to be a touchy subject in a sense that the reasonable man also seems to be deciding what is and what isn't oppression. This can be seen with Muslim women and the hijab.
And you're basically talking about false consciousness. You're saying that, oh yeah, people say that in Asian countries maybe or African countries, females just want circumcisions just because they think that's what they want. Whereas here in the Western culture, they want boob jobs because that's what society thinks it should be. They're focusing on the standard of beauty.
Women are getting boob jobs because they feel the need to fit into what society deems as beautiful and what society thinks is nice. And
So the question that must then be asked is if the age of consent is really the issue here. If a male or female would want to get circumcised after 18, would it still be viewed as wrong and false consciousness, or would society allow it to take place?
What about human rights, guys?
Well, it can be concluded that a large majority of their circumcision is done due to religious reasons. Are we not taking away the right to religious freedoms of these people? Article 18 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights gives rise to this, but does it just extend to the main religions in the country? Like to justify their views that female circumcision is unacceptable. They have searched for information that suits their argument. When carrying out their research and interviewing people in Western countries where circumcision is not as prevalent, while telling them that what has been done to them is wrong and a gross violation, they are subtly conditioning them to believe that it is as such. In countries where this is seen as the norm, they have been circumcised and that it does not affect their life or their death.
The real issue here isn't about circumcision. The real issue is what society sees and the problem they find with things that they determine is abnormal. It isn't so much about, oh yeah, circumcision is bad. It's more of, we see it as being this, we see it as being wrong, we see it as being immoral, and that's why it's a bad thing. It's to do with the intolerance of the reasonable man. Because who is the reasonable man? A small population. And what he thinks could be very intolerable to what everyone else thinks.